Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, October 13th, and it's time to go on the record. City Councilor Lydia Edwards reshaping the way Boston does business. Her vision for a new city dynamic, inclusive to all.
Health issues for candidate Bernie Sanders. Does he stay in the race?
Mitt Romney and the president. Could the former governor of Massachusetts lead a Republican backlash against the White House? Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
And welcome to OTR on this Sunday morning. I'm Ed Harding, along with News Center 5's political reporter Janet Wu. Great to have you with us. Our guest this week is Boston City Councilor Lydia Edwards. She is a Democrat. She represents District 1, which includes, make sure I get this right, the North End, East Boston, and Charlestown?
Correct.
1, 2, 3. Perfect. She first took office in 2017. She's a candidate for re-election. Her resume includes work as a public service attorney, fair housing advocate. She's a graduate of American University, Washington College of Law, and Boston University School of Law. Correct. It's great to have you with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So glad to have you here. The Boston Planning, let's just dive right into it. The Boston Planning and Development Agency. It's a really hot political topic right now. Your colleague Michelle Wu is calling for the eradication of the entire agency. Do you think she's right, or is this too drastic of a move?
No, I think she's on the pulse of the city. We really need things to change. We need to do things differently, and she's basically calling for a real conversation about what is development in a modern city. Look, the BPDA came in during the times of urban renewal 60 years ago. And the question is really, today, are we going to operate on a 60-year-old plan, or are we going to create a new one for the city of Boston?
So you're good with get rid of the whole thing and start from scratch?
I'm good with us having a real conversation with citizen-led development and defining what we need for the city of Boston. And right now, we don't feel that the BPDA is necessarily doing that.
Mm-hmm. The spotlight really has been focused on the zoning board. Yeah. Which is a part of the entire agency. What troubles you the most about the way they've been doing things?
Again, it's a 60-year-old institution. The way it was set up by statute requires certain industry interests to be there. Real estate developers, they have a seat. Labor has a seat. And I think at this point, 60 years ago, that may have been necessary. We need to revamp and modernize the whole thing. There's certain perspectives that are just not there. Environmental, looking at displacement. And I think if we're going to dive in, we need to modernize, really require certain perspectives to be there, eliminate conflicts of interest, and also require for some transparency. Look, we don't know how many variances are being put out in each individual neighborhood, and we're going to require on a quarterly basis that we see that. And moreover, we want a community counsel, a lawyer who's neutral, who's going to help guide people to the ZBA. I don't think you should need a lawyer or someone who has the in to represent you in front of your own government.
When you heard that John Lynch accepted a bribe, he worked for the for the planning board,
BPDA.
The BPDA. Were you surprised?
Of course I was surprised.
So in other words, you had never heard that things like this were going on. This to you is unusual.
The issue that we were trying to fix, and the conversation that I helped to start when we were part of running for the campaign, was the fact that in general we felt the system was broken. I didn't feel that the system was necessarily corrupt. So it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that he took that bribe, and I think it only further makes it difficult for us who believe in government to encourage folks to believe in government.
Next item I'd like to talk about is Suffolk Downs, because one of the biggest developments facing the city is the space at Suffolk Downs, and it's in your district, yes. So it even drills down to you. So what are your biggest fears as the city begins a project that's been compared to the Seaport District in terms of size and dramatic change to the city's skyline?
I fear that we're not going to learn certain lessons from the Seaport.
Which are?
Which are that, when you are going to plan, if you're not intentional about who's going to live there, if you're not intentional about creating a place for the middle class, if you don't plan for a school, if you don't plan for police, if you don't plan for fire, if you don't plan for transit-oriented development, if you don't plan for all of that, you will not get it. And that's what we don't have in the Seaport. And I'm hoping we learn from those lessons and plan for a true neighborhood to develop, to thrive, where folks can come in like myself, who started with nothing here in Boston and became something. That's the Boston that we're going to fight for in every single neighborhood. And this is a wonderful opportunity to have it.
So are you being critical of the way the Seaport has been designed, developed, and built up?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and I think that at this point, as a politician, as a leader, you can complain about certain things, or you can say there's lessons that we need to learn, and move forward. And that's what I'm hoping Suffolk Downs will be. We're going to say there's a place for the middle class here. We're going to say there's a place for our folks who need deeply affordable units. We're going to say this is going to be a true neighborhood where people can thrive. And I would say right now, looking at the Seaport, it looks not like that.
It is not too late, though, to rethink everything for the Suffolk Downs
Oh, no, that's
property.
the point.
the
Whereas
point.
with the
We're at the-
seaport, it is too late
Yeah.
at this point.
We're reacting and trying to add more to it, but in the seaport right now, we are at the very beginning. So the planning is where it needs to happen.
Let's sort of narrow down to the traffic and parking problems in the city, as well as the area that we've just been talking about. There was a lot of fear that the Everett Casino would cause a lot of problems, and it turns out not to be so. There has been no disaster at Sullivan Square. Is this proof that the city and state can make things work, and that if there is careful planning, that there is hope that things will work out, and that can accommodate everybody that lives in the area?
It's proof, yeah, that we have the capability, we have the science, and then we also have an institutional partner. The casino is also part of this, and planning for ways, advertising on the T, use the T, don't drive in, having a whole system on the waterway. They're a part of creating an institutional plan for moving people to their casino. And so I'll give them that credit. They were at the table, and I think that that's what we need to look at when we're bringing in large corporations or companies. What's their plan, what's their mitigation to help make this a livable city?
So would you say that the Casino Encore is a good neighbor and a model citizen for compared to others that will be coming into the area?
I will say, jury's still out. And I will say, I will give them credit where credit is due. And on the traffic component, they did right.
Okay, I'd like to talk about the Boston School Superintendent, Brenda Casillas, is going to be our guest here next week on OTR, by the way. And she's only been in charge since July, so we've only really begun this first school year. But I'm curious, what questions might you have for her? What kinds of things would you have? Because educating the young people of the city is, one could argue, is item one.
It's absolute. It's item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Exactly.
It's everything for the city of Boston. It's our future. And so, when we bring in the superintendent, when I speak to her, I'll be district focused, looking at my district, but also citywide, and asking her about the inequality within our own school system. Wondering why some schools are succeeding and other ones are struggling to make it. I would want to look at different ways in which they weight the formula for funding schools, and asking her to consider certain things such as displacement, such as being rent burdened. That kind of stress on a person and that child does impact how they learn. And there's studies to show that. But I don't know that BPS is accounting for that quite yet. We also have $1 billion budget just for our schools, and a lot of people really question if it's really used as efficiently as possible. She has a tough row to hoe. She should know she has a partner in me. A lot of us want her to succeed, but at the end of the day, to me, a truly thriving city is one that can educate its youth equitably.
As you know, the State House has just passed a huge education bill that adds a ton of money in, but also reorganizes the financing for how money is distributed. How optimistic are you that this will change things for your district?
We have needed the State House to take leadership on this for years.
Are you happy with the bill?
I am happy with the bill. I'm happy with the leadership. I'm happy that this is finally going to happen, and we're going to see some real state investment in our public school systems. Our schools in Boston have the highest rates of ELL students with English language learner students, the highest rate of students with special needs. We need this kind of investment. So this is much needed money. We hope that this is a beginning of a relationship of continued investment, not just one lump sum.
All right, we do the OTR pop quiz here at this point in time.
Have you heard about this?
I have heard about this.
Oh, it's reputation preseason, right?
Okay.
Okay.
She says it with a big smile.
Big
on her
smile,
face.
and meanwhile, it's going hamana. All right, up on the screen, we have a multiple choice for you, and we just talked about Suffolk Downs, so here we go. In August of 1966, years and years and years and years and years before you were born, a legendary rock and roll band held a concert there. Was it the Rolling Stones? Was it the Beatles? Or was it the Who?
66. I would say it's between A and B, and I'm just going to pick A.
It is B, the Beatles.
So close.
You were
So
right
close.
there.
Close.
It was good logic, though. All right, you're Boston's own now, but as we talked about before we started the show, you grew up on Michigan's Upper Peninsula. So let's talk about that. Mackinac Island in Lake Huron is now famous for not allowing what?
Cars. Cars.
Cars.
Cars.
Dogs
Once you
and
live
cats.
there, you know that.
Yeah, but you see, like I said in the planning, it should have been credit cards. But that's another story for another day. We continue with Lydia Edwards. Stay with us.